Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Edward Akwesi Kobia and you can find me on Bystander Ps. In this video, I want to show you how I think Stonebwoy's remove cover art was designed. Before we proceed, I want to give shoutouts for my subscribers. Photoshop tutorial by Mary. Thank you for your support. Alright, so now let's begin by opening our images. So I have these images over here, and then so now let's load in or import these pictures in this one. Our pictures have been imported into Photoshop, and then we have this one as the main image or the photo that was used, and then this one is a sample image of the old style of photo effects, and then we have Stonebwoy's name as a PNG file over here, and then we are going to use this one too as an effect. So right now let's first concentrate on this one. So we first have to create a new document. Into you call a file, then you go to new. Okay, so make sure your unit is set to inches. If you say unit, add the inches, and if you say width, height, 15 by 15, and then resolution should be 300 pixels per inch. Okay, so now let's click on create, and then we have a new document created. The document is not titled because we didn't name it when we were creating the new document. Let's first concentrate on this. We need to move this image onto our new document. The image is locked, and when you try to move it, Photoshop will prompt you that this one can't be moved unless you convert to normal layers. Unlock this by clicking on this icon, and now we can move this image around. So now let's move it all the way up to untitled image, release, and now as we can see we have the picture to be very small. So now we have to convert this to a smart object, and I've explained it in one of my videos, and then I think I don't have to be repeating it. So I'll put that video at the top right corner of your screen. Go and check it out. Pause video ebra. Alright, so now let's try to expand this one. So now we have to convert it to smart object. Right click on convert to smart object. So now as you can see this icon, it means that we've converted it to smart object. Press Ctrl or Command and then T to make the transformation active. Press and hold the Alt key or Option key on your Mac, and then try to increase the size of this image. So now as we expand, then we try to position it very well too. So now let's expand this side. Alright, let's hit OK. Let's try to bring the original cover art also closer so that we can compare it whilst we are working on our own cover art. So now let's bring the original cover art over here so that we can look, or we can just have a look at it whilst we are also working on ours. So let's bring ours to here and then expand it a bit. Okay, so now we have the main cover art here, and then this one is what we are trying to do, or what we are trying to work on. So now as we can see, let's see where this one, the edges of this are the original one. So since we have to move this one inside a bit like this and then upwards, so you can use your arrow key to move it upwards. Okay, so now let's hit Ctrl Command T and then bring it down a bit. Okay, so now let's hit enter as we are done with the transformation. So you can still move your image inward, and then we have some free space over here. If you want to create something much similar, then we need to do something about it. It's either we will crop this side off, or we have to expand this area. So we can expand this by using the content aware to expand the side by adding more space to the background. So now we have to first convert it to a normal layer again by right click it and then select rasterize. So after that, let's go and click on our rectangular marquee tool and then come and draw some rectangular shape over here. And then as we have over here, and with this, let's go all the way up to edit, fill, and make sure that content, you select content aware for the content area, then click OK. So now Photoshop itself will detect the background and fill the space with that kind of background. So now we are done with that. Let's hit Ctrl Command D to make it inactive or to deselect our selection. With the move tool selected, let's press our arrows and then move it up. So now as we can see, we have some mistakes over here. We need to correct it, and we have to go all the way to for a healing brush tool, and then you can increase the size by pressing and holding the Control Command plus Option or Alt, and then you right click on your mouse, drag it to left or right. So left will decrease it, right will increase it. And now as we click over here, it says Alt click to define a source point. So now we need to define a source point, which is a sample area. So we need to select, press and hold the Alt or Option key, and then click on this area to make a selection of this area. So now we can paint this area with that, and we can also do the same thing to this area, and then we are done with the background now. Okay, so now as we can see from the original cover art, as in a black and white, as a blue black. So now we have to gather ideas on how the designer did this. So now our main goal here is to figure out how this design was made. Okay, so now let's zoom in a bit and work on our cover art. So now let's first, I think we need to first turn this into black and white. So now let's move all the way, click on the adjustment layer icon over here, move all the way up to black and white. The shirt previously looks like red or pink color, so when we control the red here, it will affect our subject, of course. So as we control over here, we are decreasing the red color, and we don't have anything like green in it, so when you control the green, you won't see much effect on that. So let's hit undo, and now let's take this one, the red one, down a bit. Okay, let's take it down a bit. All right, so as we can see, I think this level is okay, so let's hide this one. So now we have the image in the black and white form, and then when we look over here, you can't see the hair, okay, but for hours we still can have a look at the, or we can still view the hair over here. Okay, to see you say you 3 minutes main cover art, and so an original cover art, and by the you 3 minutes you see be found hiding because you see create something similar there. I was here, yeah, the pepe. So right now, no, young adjustment layer icon, and I think exposure will do that for us. So let's control the gamma correction. So as we control the gamma correction, whoa, wow. Okay, I think it's okay, but way too distant. So now let's increase this one a bit, not much. Good. So okay, this is good. And when you apply any effect from the adjustment layer, you can go back and edit it by double clicking on this icon. So whilst this is too much for us, we can still bring it all the way up a bit for the image to be much visible. Okay, so now we have something better now. Okay, so now let's try and then add the blue effect. So in this case, make sure you select the topmost layer, click on adjustment layer again, and I think with this one, let's go all the way up to gradient map. Let's try to mix things. Let's try to do something. Okay, so now I think blue black will do. So we have black here already. So now let's double click here and set it to blue, something like sea blue. Good. So I think this is nice, this is nice, this is okay. So now let's hit OK, and I think this is nice. At least we have something similar now. Okay, so now let's proceed. We are done with that kind of effect, but still, if you don't feel like it's okay for you, you can still make changes and some stuff. All right, so now as we apply this effect, you can see that we've lost some of the brightness in this image. So now let's click on this adjustment layer icon again, click on curves, and this area will increase the lightening area or the brighten areas or the brighter areas. So now when you increase this area, you are increasing those brighter areas, and when you bring this one down, you are also increasing the darker areas. Okay, so now I think here it will be okay. Let's bring this one up a bit and hit okay. All right, so now this is cool. All right, so now we need to focus on the curve, but I think if we have some corrections to make, we can also do that by double clicking on these icons over here to make your changes. Next thing that we need to do is say yebeko a channel, so because a channel original cover art and so no black and white, so you need to turn ours back on. We need to turn the colored back on. So now let's click on this one and then hide all these layers. So now press and hold the control command key and then click and drag through these visibility icons, and whilst you are done, you see that all those layers won't be visible anymore. And now let's concentrate. So now let's pick, we have different ways of selecting the curve, but in this case for me the pen tool works best for me, so I'm going to use the pen tool and I'm going to speed up as well. Alright, so now I've made a selection for the curve. Alright, so now I can save this selection and visit it anytime, or revisit the selection anytime that I want. So let's save the selection, go to select, save selection, and then type curve and then click on OK. So now we have your selection being saved, and you can press Ctrl Command D to deselect, and then you can also load selection by going to select, load selection, and then click on channel. The drop down will come, click on curve, which was the name given to our selection, and now we have our selection back again. So now for instance, let's make the gradient map active. Okay, let's make it visible. So now with the help of layer mask, you can make an object either visible or invisible. Blacks makes it invisible and white makes it visible. So this layer mask is being filled with white color. This means that the gradient map should be visible. So I want that area which I have selected to be invisible. So now I need to fill that area with black and then make sure that the layer mask is selected. So now shift F5, or you can go to edit and then fill dialog will pop up for you. Now don't select content aware, but now select black and then click OK. So now we have gradient is not affecting this area anymore. This means that these areas are filled with white and this area is filled with black. So now you have more Control D and for any selection in flow, and we have the curve to be colored. Now okay, so now any changes applied to this, you can also change it. So now if you want this to be applied to all these layers, so now what do we do? When you hover over the adjustment layer, then you press and hold your Alt or Option key, click and drag it over here, and then it will ask you replace layer mask, then you click on yes, and then do the same thing for that, yes, and do the same thing for that, yes. So now it means that all these areas is not affected with this layer mask, this adjustment layers is not affecting the curve. Okay, seems like we don't have some smooth edge over here, so let me go all the way up to this guy, this layer mask. Let's go to filter, blur, Gaussian blur, and I think 3.0 is okay, so hit okay. So now let's also apply these changes to the rest of our layer marks. All right, okay, so now it looks smooth, so I think it's okay now, and then we are almost done. Left with something small. So as you zoom in over here, you can see some old style photo effects. We zoom in and some old style photo effect, and then we want to apply something like that to it over here. Yeah, try see a BB similar, not much the same way as we have here, but something similar, something better. Now let's go all the way up. I think I have it here. So now let me turn this one off, and then with the help of the move tool, I can move this one all the way up here. Okay, so now this is going to be that kind of effect. Okay, so if it is too small for you, Control or Command T to transform and then expand it a bit. So now it is being covered. Okay, so now since it is at the top of all the layers, and but when you turn it on and off, you can see it. So this means that we need to set it to something. This guy is cool. So now let's lower the opacity and see the effect. All right, so now let me hit Control Command T to expand it a bit so that we can have a better feel of it. Okay, so now I think it's getting closer to this. All right, so now let me expand it much more and then hit enter. Cool, now done. So now I think it's okay now, and if it is too much for you, you can still lower the opacity or the opacity. All right, so now I think we have something way similar to what we have. So now the cap is too colored or matte colored. So now let me apply the hue/saturation effect. Okay, so it's cool now. I think we have now something similar to this one too. Okay, and then it was affecting the whole show, so now we have to apply this effect to it, this effect on the layer mask, and then hit yes. Oh, all right, so now we don't want it to affect this one, so we need to Control I to invert. Okay, so now this is cool. We have our cap to be nice. So now the next thing that we need to do, last but 1 but 2 or 3 or something, is to add the text, and there is some white dots here. We need to apply that one too to our design. I don't think we have exactly what is here, but we have something similar. So now let me go all the way up to, is it this guy? Yeah, so I have it over here. I have something here, so let me hit this one, and now with the help of magic wand to click in here to select, and then press delete to take away your background, and then hit Control Command D to deselect your selection. So now press and hold Control and then drag your this thing over to this area. Now let's bring this one back here. So we have it over here. Let's move it all the way up to the top of all layers. Now let's first convert it to Smart Object. Hit Control Command T and then hold your Alt key to transform it. Okay, so now I think I have to rotate it, and to rotate it, when you place your cursor here, you see that the icon changes to something rotated. So now when you press shift and you rotate, now per se will rotate it within 15 degrees angle. So that is when you press and hold the shift whilst you are rotating. Okay, so now I think here is okay. Let's hit enter, and then we have something small, something better now. I don't think it's applied anywhere or everywhere, so let's create a layer mask for it, and then with the help of our brush we can erase or clean in some of these things out, which we don't want all of them. Transform it, make it way bigger, and then hit enter. And now let's try to clean in some of these things, so not all of them are needed over here. So you can control your flow and then opacity, and then you clean all this. I don't think all of them are needed. You just want to apply just something small. Okay, so now we have something better now, and I think we are almost done with this. So now the next thing is to add the text. So now let's go all the way up to our type tool from the tool panel, and then when you select your type tool, come to your work and then click. We don't have the same font as we have over here, but we are using something similar. So now let's type remove. All right, so now I think this is okay, and then this text color tool is cool now, but we need to make sure the text is in the middle or in the center of our image. So now let's hit Control or Command A. This means that we've selected all, that is the entire image. So now make sure your move tool is active, and when it's active, you can see from here that we have align horizontal centers. So now we have both left and right, it has to be centered, and then up and down too, it has to be centered. But we don't want to center it between the top and the down, we want it to come down. So use your arrow key to position it somewhere here. Now as we zoom in here, this looks like it's translucent. As we zoom in here, this looks like it's a translucent text, okay, and yet transparent, and also opaque. So yenye no translucent, the opacity so kakre bi wa ha. So we have something better now. So I think at 80% okay, yenye remove ewa ha. So I cast Stonebwoy. So I think I have the Stonebwoy PNG file here, and I'll hit Control to move it up here. Okay, so now I think let's convert it to Smart Object 2 to make it non-destructive object. So now let's expand it and move it all the way down here, and then position it up a little bit to the left a little bit and hit enter. So now we have Stonebwoy remove, and then we have the original cover art remove. Now one thing I have noticed is the brightness on the cap. I think we are lacking brightness. Okay, so I think we can create level for it to increase the brightness, but so let's do it that way. So let's increase it. No, undo. Let's control this area. That is cool. Okay, so now let's apply this and click yes. Undo. It's supposed to be Alt and apply yes. So now we have something brighter here, and I think exposure needs to be controlled. Exposure needs to be controlled. So beam. Ah boy, one God, we are almost done. Sorry, we are done. Let's move it. I said because it needs to be aligned here. Okay, so now we adwuma intimate that so when your brain wash. If I try enyum no outside, enyum na babontin, go check it out. Stonebwoy remove a freestyle keke or the mom. The fans in na oh yeah, the fan, when you're the fan or the aba. Go stream it live audio mark any boom play ninyina baby a ubenya bi nti kone kohwe bi na afin so wi amare mfi se men so amaye obe subscribe obe share obe comment no like me videos na mame me da se so enya bre no ahwe makramo ya pon